Hi guys, this is Jennifer from Learners Gurukul. Today we are going to see about tissues. It is also one of the important chapter. So I want all of you to listen very carefully. You can expect at least 5 to 8% of the question from this chapter. So concentrate well and listen very carefully. Come, let's go through our slides. So what is a tissue? Tissue is nothing but a group of cells. Okay, the last chapter is we dealt about cell. So what is a cell? So it is a unit. It is a functional unit where it can perform all the functions. But here it is a group of cells with similar structure and functionally also they are similar. So those group of cells is said to be tissues. So tissues will be like the same type of cell, like they're together. So when the cells are put together, the cells must be same in the structure and also functionally they must be same. These type of cells are said to be tissues. So now let's talk about the components of tissues. So there are two components of tissues. The first one is cells and the second one is intercellular substances. So what is a cell? It is having a common origin and function. And intercellular substances. See, you can find some gaps between each and every cells. So here there is a gap, here this is said to be intercellular space, and here in the intercellular spaces you can find some substance which may be non-living, fibrous or jelly-like substances. So these are said to be intercellular substances. So now let's talk about the functions of tissues. So here the formation of tissues has brought about division of labor in multicellular organisms. So it has brought a division of labor. So for example, human is a multicellular organism. So you can see there are so many different organs in our body. So heart, which comprises of different type of cell, kidney, which comprises of different types of cells, and you can see and brain cells, all are different from each other. So these tissues has got a division of labor in all the organs of the multicellular organisms. Okay, tissues become organized to form organs and organs into organ system. This tissue will get organized. It will form a structure to form an organ, and then this organ, each and every organ in a living system forms an organ system. So if you see, if a person is working towards he is doing a work, only if a single person is working, so the workload will be more and the efficiency of the work will also be not that good, because a single person is working on a working and he can't, the work can't be that efficient. But if you see a group of persons working on something, and you can see the work is also completed easily and efficiently. So the same way the workload of individual cells has decreased due to the origin of tissues. So because of that improved organization, there will be higher efficiency, and the multicellular organism will have higher life expectancy. The survival rate will be higher in a multicellular organisms. So now let's see the classification of tissues. The first main classification of tissue is animal tissue, and the second one is plant tissue. Now let's see the difference. What is a plant tissue and what is the animal tissue? Now here in plant tissue, the tissue organization is targeted towards stationary habit of plants. If you see, it is stationary. It is not that it is the system itself is organized in such a way for the growth in a stationary habitat. So if you are here, you can see the tissue organization is targeted towards the mobility of animals. If you see, the mobility. If you talk about the mobility, so human beings and other things like animals and everything are moving. So the tissue organization is developed in such a way, organized in such a way that it helps in the mobility of the creature, that is animal or human being. Here in plant tissue, the organization is very simple, but in animal tissue, the organization is very complex. Here, many of the tissues are dead in plant tissue. If you see the bark of a or a cork of a tree, it is composed of fully of dead cells. But if you see the animal tissue, it is all the tissues are mostly all the tissues are living. And in the plant tissue, the growth is confined to certain areas. If you see the plants, some plants are like habituated. They grow in only certain places and they don't grow in different other places. Some like coniferous things will grow in coniferous forest, and deciduous trees will grow in only in deciduous forest, and like that. So, but here it is not confined to areas. Like human beings are scattered all over the world. Even they can live in a polar region also. Even they can live in a very desert type of land also. So it is not confined to any areas. So now here in the plant tissue, the maintenance required is very less. Comparatively, the animal tissue requires more maintenance. So this plant grow throughout the year. So throughout their lifetime, it is not that it reaches a certain age or reaches certain height and there will not be further development, there will not be further growth. It is not like that. But in animal tissue, it is opposite. So they can grow only till certain age. For example, human beings can grow only till 18 to 21 years. So after that, there will not be any growth. There will not be any growth in the height in the human beings, or same thing which is also seen in the animals also. But here that is not in a plant tissue, it is totally different. So it can grow till their lifetime, throughout their lifetime. Now let's see about plant tissues. So these plant tissues are divided into two types. The one is meristematic tissue and the other one is permanent tissue. Come, let's go through the meristematic tissue. So here, meristematic tissue, it is a group of actively dividing cells. It is present in the growing region of plants. So where the plant will grow, actually, it is in the tip of the stem or in the tip of the root. You can find the growth mostly in the tip of the stem and the tip of the root. So this tip is made up of the meristematic tissues. So the increase in the length and girth of the plant, the meristematic tissues are responsible for the increase in height and the girth of the plant. So now let's see about some of the characteristics of meristematic tissues. So they are similar in structure and they will have a thin cellulose or cell wall. The cell wall is very thin and they are very similar in their structure, and they exist in different shapes like spherical shape, oval shape, polygonal shape, or rectangular shape. So the cells of the tissues are arranged and they do not have any intercellular spaces, so they are very compactly arranged. And here they have dense protoplasm and also a prominent nucleus is present inside. And here the vacuoles are either small or they may be absent. So now the meristematic tissues are classified into three types. One is apical, the other one is lateral, and the third one is intercalary. So now let's talk about apical meristem. So they are present in the tip of roots, shoots, branches, and leaves. And it brings the elongation of the roots and stems, and it increases the height of the plant. So it is responsible for the primary growth of the plant. Next, we're talking about lateral meristem. So here the lateral meristem are present along the lateral side of the stem and roots. For example, they are present in the Cork cambium. So it helps in the increase in the girth that is diameter. It increases the diameter and girth of the width of the plant or stem or root. So it is responsible for the secondary growth. Now we are talking about intercalary meristem. Actually, these are like they are present in the internodes where the stem meets with the leaves. Like it is like a base of the leaves, and those places are said to be internodes. So this internodes, the intercalary meristem are present, and they are it produces the increase it produces an increase of length of organs, such as it helps in the increase of length of leaves and internodes. So this is the structure. So you can see the apical meristem is present at the tip of a root or shoot, and you can see the intercalary meristem which is present in the internodes, where the base of the leaves you can see the intercalary meristem, and the lateral one you can find it, which helps in the increase in the diameter or girth of the stems. Okay. Now let's talk about the functions of meristematic tissues. So it acts like the meristematic tissues act like a parent tissues. So from which the other tissues will develop. From this is the base, and from which the other tissues will develop. So these tissues take part in the growth by the formation of new cells. So they will help in the formation of new tissues. If there is any injury to a plant, so this meristem will help in the formation of new cells. So new plant cells. So these are some of the functions of meristematic tissues. Now let's talk about permanent tissues. So permanent tissue is a group of cells. So this permanent tissue is also derived from the meristematic tissues. But these cells will they lost the power of cell division temporarily or permanently. So what happens here after a development of the cell, they will reach a certain stage where there will not be any further there will not be any differentiation, there will not be any changes in the shape, size or function. So they will reach a point of permanent place. So this is said to be differentiation. So they will not divide after this. So this is said to be permanent tissues. So the permanent tissues are divided into two types. One is simple permanent tissue and the second one is complex permanent tissue. Now talking about simple permanent tissue, it is subdivided into three forms. One is parenchyma, the other one is collenchyma, and the third one is sclerenchyma. So the third and the complex permanent tissues are divided into two types. One is xylem and the other one is phloem. So the parenchyma forms the bulk of plant body. It consists of thin-walled living cells. So here it forms the bulk of the plant body. It gives the bulk. So here you can see the cells are isodiametric and they are equally expanded in all sides. So here the cell wall is very thin and it consists of a dense cytoplasm and also a small nucleus and a large central vacuole is present in the parenchyma cells. So here the intercellular spaces are very abundant, and you can see this type of parenchyma is present in the organs of the plants, roots like stems, leaves, flowers, fruits and seeds. Everything these type of tissues are present. So some of the types of parenchyma, you can see this is Sclerenchyma. When there is a chloroplast present, it is said to be Sclerenchyma. And if there are air spaces inside, air cavities is present, it is said to be Parenchyma. So this is frozen chyma, and the other one is epidermal parenchyma, which is present in the below the epidermis. And this is xylem parenchyma, and this is mesophyll parenchyma. So now let's talk about some of the functions of parenchyma. So the main function of parenchymatous tissue is storage of food. So it helps in the storage of food. So for example, starch in the parenchyma of cortex of potato tuber. Starch will be stored in the potato tuber. So now it forms the framework of all the plant organs and tissues like cortex. So it serves as a packaging tissue to fill spaces between the tissues. So there will be some spaces between the tissues, and these tissues, the spaces are filled up with this parenchyma cells. So they are said to be the packaging tissues. So it also stores waste material such as gum, crystals, and extra. So the intercellular air spaces of parenchyma cells allows gaseous exchange. So there will be spaces in between the tissues. So this spaces is said to be the uh, air spaces, and this helps in the allows the gaseous exchange in the cells. If the, as I already told you, if the chloroplast is present in the parenchyma cell, it is called as sclerenchyma, and it performs the photosynthesis. And in aquatic plants, so you already know in aquatic plants there must be lot of air cavities. So because of the plants can easily take the uh, air into them. These air spaces will help in the buoyancy or help the plant to float in the surface. So this is said to be this type of parenchyma is said to be aerenchyma, where you can find lot of air cavities in the parenchyma cell tissues. So this is said to be aerenchyma. Now let's talk about collenchyma. So collenchyma is usually found three or four layers beneath the epidermis. So it is present in stems, petioles, and leaves of herbaceous dicot plants. So here the cell tissues are living, and it is elongated, and it is irregularly thickened at the corners. So here the intercellular spaces are absent in this collenchyma tissues. So now let's talk about some of the functions of collenchyma. So this collenchyma provides the mechanical strength, that is, like it protects, it gives flexibility and elasticity to the plants and leaves. You can see the plant and leaves can bend. The stems also can bend to an extent. So this flexibility is given by this collenchyma cells. So it allows easy bending of various parts of the plants without breaking. So when cells of collenchyma contain some chloroplast, so if they are containing, the cells are containing the chloroplast, and they can produce sugars and starch. So this is the diagram of collenchyma tissues. You can see there is a bigger vacuole is present, and there is also protoplasm, and a thin cell wall is present. You can see the corner is also thickened. So there will not be any intercellular spaces in this. Now the next one is sclerenchyma. So these are mostly dead cells, and they are devoid of protoplasm. They will not be, for example, like the bark of the tree or the bark of the tree. It is mostly the sclerenchyma cells. Here the walls of this sclerenchyma cell is thickened due to the formation of lignin. So such cell wall is said to be lignified. So this lignin, because of this presence of lignin, the cell wall gets thickened, and they are very closely patched without any intercellular spaces. So there are two types of sclerenchyma. One is fibers and the other one is sclerids. So they are fibers which is consist of very long, narrow, thick and lignified cells. The sclerids are irregular shaped, and if you see the tissue is present in stems, it is present around the vascular bundles and it's also present in the veins of the leaves and the hard covering. If you see the nuts and seeds, you can see the hard covering, like a husk of the coconut, and everything is very hard. So it is all made up of sclerenchymatous tissues. If you can find the coconut, the walnuts, the shell is also very thick. This is all made up of the sclerenchyma cells. Now let's talk about the functions. So it gives actually it is helped in the mechanical and protective in functions. So it gives the flexibility, rigidity, strength, and elasticity to the plant body. And as there is any strains, like if there is any like a problem outside, like the weather condition is bad or anything like that, so it actually protects the plant from all those barriers, physical barriers. So it gives them strength and flexibility and elasticity to the plants. So these are the structure. This is this transverse section, how it is present, and this is the longitudinal section. Here it is, you can find the cell wall is very thickened due to the presence of lignin, that is lignified thick wall. And there is also a presence of narrow lumen inside. So now we are going to talk about complex permanent tissue. We've seen about the simple permanent tissue. They are divided into three parts. One is parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Now we are going to talk about complex permanent tissue. So this is like this complex tissue consists of more than one type of cells. So here you can find they are from the common origin. So for example, the two types of complex tissues are xylem or wood, phloem or bast. So here xylem and phloem are both conducting tissues and also known as vascular tissues. So together they form a vascular bundle. So what is a conducting tissue? So this conducting tissue is nothing but from the root will absorb the water. So this water is taken to all parts of the plant. It is taken up to all parts of the plant, like leaves, fruits, flowers, and etc. So this xylem and phloem plays an important role in conducting the water and taking up the water to different water and nutrients to different part of the plants. So it is said to be, it is also known as vascular tissue, and they form a vascular bundles. Xylem and phloem together form vascular bundles. Now, let's talk about xylem. So it is a vascular and mechanical tissues. So it is composed of 4 different types. So xylem is also subdivided in 4 different types. First one is tracheids. Second one is vessels or trachea. Third one is xylem parenchyma and xylem sclerenchyma. Except xylem parenchyma, all the other elements are dead and bonded by thick lignified cells. So only the xylem parenchyma is living. The other 3 types, tracheids, vessels, or trachea, or xylem, sclerenchyma, all the others are made up of dead cells. So tracheids and vessels are tubular structures. So the tracheids and vessels look like a tubular structure. Now you can see the vessel elements and tracheids, and it is looking like a tube forms, and there will be walls, pitted walls. You can see the tracheids are present and ground tissues are present. In everything there is a presence of xylem tissue. You can find the presence of pits and a nucleus is a well-defined nucleus is also present in this tissue. Now let's talk about the function of xylem. So the main function is to carry the water and mineral salts upwards from the root to different parts like shoots. So it is said to be water conducting tissues. So since walls of tracheids, vessels, and sclerenchyma of xylem are lignified, so because the other important thing is they are lignified, the tracheids, vessels, and sclerenchyma of xylem. So because of this gives a mechanical strength to the plant body, and it also stores food and the sideway conduction of water. If you see the cells are present throughout the body, water they can also take through the sideway conduction also, like from the stem also they can take the water. Now let's talk about phloem. It is also called as bast. It is a living conducting tissues. So it contains tubes like a xylem. Just it looks similar to that of xylem, but it does not perform any mechanical function. It doesn't give any mechanical strength to the plant. So there are like 4 types. The first one is seed tube, second one is companion cells, third one is phloem parenchyma, and the fourth one is phloem fibers. So their seed tubes is nothing but they are very slender and it is a perforated wall. There will be pores inside the walls. So it is companion cells are living parenchymatous cells. So they are like sides of this, they are present in the sides of the sieve tubes. These sieve tubes are surrounded by these companion cells and they are also living cells. So they are these sieve tube and companion cell have close cytoplasmic connection with each other through fine pits. So the both of the cytoplasm of sieve tube and companion cells are they are connected like with the help of fine pits. There will be some pits. So with this pits, they are connected to each other, the cytoplasm of sieve tube and companion cells. So these phloem fibers are thick walls of fibers with simple pits. And the phloem parenchyma are thin walls, living cells of parenchyma of phloem. This is the diagram of phloem. You can see that this is the seed tube and this is the companion. So here it is closely connected with some of the cytoplasms are closely connected with the small pores. So here you can see it is 550 micrometer in structure, this companion cell. So now this is the diagram of phloem. So now let's talk about some of the functions of phloem. Phloem transport photosynthetically prepared food materials. So like xylem, which takes water and minerals, phloem will also help in the transport of photosynthetically prepared materials from leaves to leaf. So where photosynthesis takes place, it takes place in the leaves. So the leaves prepare food like by through photosynthesis. So the photosynthetically prepared food is taken to the other parts of the plant through this phloem. So these are the structures of xylem and phloem. So here there is only one way conduction happens. If you see the difference, so the water and minerals are taken only through one ways, but here it is taken both the ways. Two-way flow is there. From water and food is taken down also, and it also taken up also. So cells have end walls with perforation. Here there is no end walls between the cells. Here there is a end wall between the cells, and there is a thick wall sniffled with lignin. You can see there is a lignin here present because of which the walls are very thin. But here there is no lignin, so there is no thick wall of lignin here. The cell wall is not that thin. Here it is thin and here it is thick because of the presence of lignin. Now let's talk about protective tissue. So plants is protected by two tissues. The one is epidermis and the other one is cork. Now let's going to talk about epidermis. This epidermis is the outermost protective layer of plant organ. So it is usually a single layer of cells. So they are elongated and flattened with intercellular spaces. The intercellular spaces are present in the epidermis, and they are living cells. And the inner content and everything is very much similar to that of a parenchyma cells. So in leaves, epidermis will bear some small pores. This pores is said to be stomata. So because of which it can take the oxygen directly from it can take the CO2 and directly from the air. So because of the presence of stomata. So and some plants living in the dry habitat, the epidermis may be thicker. So if you see some of the plants which is living in the desert areas like cactus and everything, you can find the epidermis to be very thicker because it will help, it will prevent the plant from critical loss of water. So it will not let the plants to evaporate water. So let's see some of the function of the epidermis. So it gives protection to the plant from the injury and infection. So the cuticle present in the epidermis will help to reduce the water loss by evaporation to prevent desiccation. So the stomata which is present in the epidermis will help in to allow the gaseous exchange during the photosynthesis and respiration, and it also facilitates the transpiration. So this is the structure of an epidermis. Here you can find upper epidermis, and this is the lower epidermis, and you can see it is palisade and spongy cells are present, which is said to be the mesophyll. Here, this is the cuticle of the cell. And also the cell, it is made up of, the epidermal cell is made up of chloroplast, vacuole, and nucleus is present. The vacuole is a large vacuole is present, and cell wall is present, and also there is a presence of cytoplasm. So, excuse me. Now let's talk about Cork. So this Cork cell are usually the dead cells, and they do not have any intercellular spaces. So you can see it is present in the periphery of a stem or roots, and when they get older, they will be increase in the girth. They will lead to the increase in the girth. If you see, they also have a chemical called suberin in their walls, which maybe makes them impervious to gases and water. So it gets because of that, the gases exchange still takes place because of the presence of suberin. So let's see some of the functions of Cork. So it provides the protection to a plant. It also protects the plant from the external injuries such as infections and other things. And it also prevents it from desiccation. Now, so since Cork does not catch fire easily, so it is also helps used for insulation, like for shock absorption and linoleum. For because of all these things, doesn't catch fire that easily. It can also be used for the other works also, like insulation, shock absorption, or linoleum. And because it can also be used in the sports goods like shuttlecocks, table tennis, paddles, etc. These Corks can be used. So this is the structure of a Cork. You can see the hardwood is present, and it is surrounded by the sapwood, and which is also surrounded by vascular cambium. And here this bark, which is a living tissue, phloem and periderm is present, and the outer surface is made up of the Cork. So, and we are into the end of part 1, and we will take a quick recap, like what is we have seen, what is a tissues, and what are the types of tissues. It is divided into plant tissue and animal tissue. So now we have seen the plant tissue. The plant tissues are divided into meristematic tissues and parenchymatous tissues. So if you see the meristematic tissues, it is subdivided into parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And if you see the structure, permanent tissue, it is divided into simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissues. So so we are into the end of the chapter, and so if there is any doubt, you can message us through our comment section. So next class we will be seeing about, in our next PPT, we will be seeing about the animal tissues. So that is also a very important session of the chapter. So I want all of you to go through the slides if you have any doubts, and you can also comment in our comment session. Thank you so much.